Hello, everybody. My name is Kyle Lee, aka Kilo Loco from kiloloco.com, and today we're going to be going over Tron get and post requests. The tools that we're going to be using today are Xcode 8.2.1, Swift 3.0, CocoaPods, Tron, obviously, and SwiftyJSON, which is included in Tron. The skill level I set for this tutorial I marked as intermediate because you have to have some familiarity with the tools above, as well as having some familiarity with networking requests, knowing how to create and use models, abstraction, and UI table views. I'd like to give a shout out to San Ali. He's the one that actually requested I do a tutorial on Tron. So shout out to you, San. And let's get into it. So we're going to start off by making a new project. And let's see, we'll just call this networking, and we'll just call it Tron. Networking Tron. And it's going to be going into KL Learning because that's where I learn ya. Alright, and the first thing that I want to do is let's get this storyboard up and running. While that's loading, I'll create another tab, open up the view controller, and get that set. There we go. Clear out some space so that we can put everything in there. Head back over to the view or to the storyboard. So I'm gonna get two buttons going in here. One's gonna be for the get request. The other is gonna be for the post request. Alright, and we're gonna just drag with option so that we could create a duplicate of that button. Let go, wait for Xcode to do its thing, post, there we go, and then select the other button, stack them, yeah, so we got them stacked. We want this to be 0, 0, don't need a height. But we will add, we'll update these frames, add some spacing. It looks good to me. Get that table view going. Just gotta stretch this bad boy out, make sure it looks decent. Could have used probably like a nav bar or whatever, but this does the job just as well. So it's not pretty, but it will demonstrate what I need to demonstrate to you. Alright, and then let's see, style. You know what, I think everything else is good. Yeah, I think that looks good. So now we just gotta connect stuff. Recent files, view controller. And let's start off with the table view because I want that to be at the top. Table view. That's new. Oh, no. See, I'm grabbing the view controller. I don't know what it's doing, but it's not doing what I want it to do, so I'll just grab from here instead. Table view. That's interesting. Okay. So let's just make sure that our view is connected. It is a view, it is part of view controller. So then what we'll do is we'll do at IB outlet weak var and table view, type UI table view, and then from here we can drag and connect. From here, all right, so that started working. Don't know what happened there. Xcode's freaking out on me, doesn't know what it's doing anymore. Action, and we'll do on get tapped. Works with those, kind of weird. Make sure it's in action. On post tapped. All right, so we got everything all connected up, and now close that one, and we're back to where we want it to be. All right, so the next step is to just go ahead and close this, and we gotta go over and get our Tron stuff going. So let's go over to Safari. I prefer Safari as my browser. And we're gonna go to Google. And in case you didn't know how to get there, I always just do it this way. We're gonna type in Swift, and we're gonna type in Tron. Swift Tron. It'll be the first one at the top right here at MLS Dev. All right, so what Tron is it's pretty much an abstraction layer for Alamofire. So it pretty much does all your networking requests just like Alamofire, but it makes it look a little bit cleaner. And pretty much anything that you could do with Alamofire, you could do with Tron. Well, all the main stuff you can do with Alamofire, you could do with Tron, and it just makes it look a little bit prettier. If you can't do something in Tron, then you can always use Alamofire because it does import Alamofire with it. It also imports SwiftyJSON by default if you do this pod Tron right here. But if you do the Tron core, it will import Tron and Alamofire, but will not import SwiftyJSON. But today we're going to be using SwiftyJSON to do some of our parsing. So I'm gonna just do this as my pod file, or I'm gonna enter that into my pod file. So let's go over to our terminal, and we are going to change directory to the desktop. KL learning, because that's where I learn ya. Networking Tron. I'm gonna do pod init. Open the pod file. I'm gonna uncomment this right here, and then we're also going to paste in that right there, save it, do pod install. Oh, hold on, pod install, not caps. Come on, guys, what are you guys doing? Don't you know you're not supposed to do caps? All right, so like I said, it imports Alamofire automatically for you, as well as SwiftyJSON. Unless you do the core, Tron core, then it won't do SwiftyJSON. It'll just do Alamofire and Tron, and then obviously Tron. So sending stats, and then when this finishes up, we are going to open up our XC workspace. So networking right here. There we go. Open that bad boy up. Alrighty. And let's just get this going. Oh, and let me change the font for you guys because it is kind of small for you in case you're watching on a phone. And we'll get this set up too. Don't usually use stuff over here for the most part, so I'm gonna just close this. Alright. So now what we're gonna do, I'm gonna import Tron, and we are going to build this. Make sure that there's no problems building it, that we can properly did the CocoaPods, and we can import it just fine. While this is building, I want to show you the website that we're going to be using to do our networking requests. So just go ahead and go over to Google, and you're going to type in JSON placeholder, and it's going to be this first one, JSON placeholder fake online REST API for developers. So what we're going to be using for our GET request, we're going to be using users, and this will give us 10 users. It'll give us this data back, right? And that's what I'm going to put. I'm going to put the users, let's see, we'll put their name and we'll put their company name. Yeah, their name and their company name into the table view, or into each cell. And then for posting, what we'll do is we'll use this API right here, which is the /posts. And that will allow us to post. And if we do a successful post, what it'll do is it'll send us back. The response will be whatever we sent to the API. So yeah, so everything looks like it's working properly. So the first thing that you have to do with Tron is that you actually have to make a strong reference to a Tron object. And all you have to do that is to make a Tron object by specifying what the base URL is going to be. So we'll do let Tron equal Tron, and let's see if it'll get some autocomplete. See base URL. So we're gonna just do this first one right here. We're not going to be using any plugins or do any session managers. The session manager is stuff that you can control with Alamofire. So if you're more familiar with Alamofire, then you could do some of your session manager changes to do some of the changes to the session manager here. Or if you want to use some of the plugins that Tron offers, then feel free to look into that, and that's where you would specify them. But we're just going to start off with the base URL, and it's going to be a string right there. And like I said, we're going to be using JSON placeholder.typicode.com, so we'll just go ahead and copy that. And notice that it is a HTTPS website, so we do not have to go into our info.plist and change the what's it called, app transport security. So just remember, if you're going to be using a different API, make sure that it is HTTPS, or else you do have to go into info.plist. You have to do this little plus. Let's see, you should know this already, but application transport security, somewhere in here, app transport security right there, settings. So you do that and do all the things that you need to do with that. But yeah, we're not going into that today. All right, so like I said, you need to make a strong reference to your Tron object. From there, we are going to, hold on, I got my cheat sheet to make sure I do this right, because it gets a little bit confusing. Now with when you're doing Tron requests, you actually have to create models before you can actually do a Tron request. And let me show you that right now. So we're not going to make the model, we're actually going to try to do the request. So we're going to do let request, request, and you have to specify that it's of type API request. And you actually have to specify two different models in here. Now this is one of the drawbacks that I see in Tron, is that you have to specify the models before you actually even create a request. And the only reason I don't like that is because it's like it forces you to it forces you to do some of the work before you could even do any test data, which it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's kind of bothersome in my opinion. So we're just going to specify that it's we're going to do a request, an API request obviously, and then we're going to specify the path right here. So path it takes a string, so we're just, remember for our get request I said we were going to do users, so let's go ahead and type in users. And we also want to make sure that this, I believe, has a n slash right there. I'd have to double check. We'll check it both ways, but I think it has to have the n slash right there. And then users is just going to be this, so don't be confused. It's just this. See, so if this is our base URL, right? And then we're gonna specify the path is going to be users, and it's supposed to give us that. So that's all that is. All right, so as you can see, this isn't working. Let me see if I could get this to pop up so that all right, well, it's not working. So what I actually have to do, like I said, I have to create models, because this API request takes in models, and let me see if I can find that for you. So this is right here in the documentation. It's expecting a model and an error model. Now the error model, I don't really see much benefit. That's another downside that I see to Tron, is that I don't see much of a benefit of using an error model, but whatever. That's just how you have to use Tron. There could be some benefits, but most of the stuff that you do in Tron, it's going to give you all the error responses that you want anyways. Okay, so let me pull up my stuff so I just remember how I wanted to do this. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and make two structs, or two different models. We're gonna do one for our actual model, what we're expecting to receive from this response, which for this get request is gonna be a user, and then we have to make an error model. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll do new file, and it's just gonna be a Swift file. And this one I'm gonna call user. Yeah, we can call this one user. All right, so now we have to do a struct, right? And this is going to be a user, of course, and our model has to abide by JSON decodable. Or else it's not going to be accepted. And I think JSON decodable is part of SwiftyJSON, so make sure, or actually, it might be part of Tron. Let me check. I think we have to import both of them anyways. Import Tron. Let's see. Yeah, JSON decodable is part of Tron, but we also have to import SwiftyJSON in order to do the parsing as well, or because we want to do the parsing. You don't have to, but yeah. So SwiftyJSON, right? And in order to comply to the JSON decodable protocol, we have to initialize it with JSON, and it throws. You don't have to specify that it throws, but you do have to specify that it is initialized with JSON. So we're going to do a required init, and it does have to be required, or the model has to be final. I'll show you that right now. And then you have to initialize with JSON, and I believe, I forgot who has the JSON object, but it does have to be with a JSON object right here. Required init JSON, and then we have to, let's see. Maybe it does have to throw. I think Xcode's tripping. I don't think it knows what it's doing. Anyway. Okay, so that's all we have to do. So, this is weird. Alright, let's just try it like this. All right, so in our users, one thing that we want is going to be the name. The other thing that we're going to want is going to be the company name. And I'm just doing company name just because, it's a good way to show you how to use SwiftyJSON to parse through that, even though I have a video on how to parse through SwiftyJSON. But yeah, so we'll do let name, and that's going to be of type string. And then let company name, also part of type string. And then for our JSON, or what we want to do is we want to let our name equal JSON, and then we could just specify name because it's going to be receiving a dictionary, right? And then we want the string value of that, and then we want the company name, and that's going to parse through the JSON. This one we have to do company, then we have to do name, then we have to do string value, right? So that would be great if that was all we needed for the model, but we also need an error model. And so let's go ahead and make that. And for the error model, I don't really do too much with it because, like I said, it's not that useful. And I'll just call this my error. I don't know. Call it whatever you want. But just remember that you do have to import Tron. Nope. Not networking Tron. That's my project, buddy. Import Tron, and then we want to do a struct as well. And this is going to be my error. Also has to conform to JSON decodable. Really not sure why. It's kind of a weird requirement. We're going to also initialize with the same thing, JSON. And we'll just print the JSON. Or we'll print, or you know what? We'll print the JSON as well. So we'll do JSON is JSON. Or we'll just do this. Interpolation. So that you can see that this is the JSON. Because it's empty when it comes back. And I'll show you that. But print JSON parsing error. Or something like that, right? And oh, see, so the JSON object is part of SwiftyJSON. So we want to do Swifty, so that we get this object and we can conform to JSON decodable and be all good and ready to go. All right, so that would be great if we would be able to just do this, and as you can see, we can do that, but if we were to move forward, it wouldn't be doing exactly what we expected it to do. So let's see if Xcode wakes up. This should, all right, we're all good to go. See that? So now it's just telling that we haven't used request yet, so we're gonna just print request just so that it's being used somewhere and that there's no problems. And this little error goes away. The problem with this is that our JSON response is not going to be just an individual user. It's going to be an array of users. So in order to properly do that, in order to properly create a user when we're using it in the completion handler, is we're going to have to create another model that's going to handle users. And it has to take the actual response, convert it into a dictionary, or convert it into an array of dictionaries, and then through that array it has to iterate and create users. So it sounds a little bit confusing, but I'll show you what I mean, and we could always go back to this example. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create another model, and we're going to call this a user response. Or we'll call it users response. right? Because it's plural, whatever. Call it whatever you want. And then once again, we have to import Tron. Dang it, I keep doing that. We have to import SwiftyJSON. And then we're going to do struct. And we're going to do users response. Also has to conform to JSON decodable. And then we're going to initialize just like the other ones. For this one, remember that we're getting an array back. So we'll do let users array equal JSON dot array value, right? And then what we'll do is we'll map this. So we need to store the value of the users, and we need the actual array of users. So what we'll do is we'll do let users equal, or no, be of type user array. There we go. And we'll just say users is equal to users array dot map. And then what we'll do is we'll do user, and we'll initialize this by passing in JSON, or no, we'll do $0, and that should allow us to initialize. So let's see. Oh, that's right, because it's it throws. So let's go ahead and remove this. Right, should be able to continue without it. I'm not going to get into the error handling. I just want to kind of show you guys how this works. So that allows us to do that. So if you don't know how map works, it's pretty much like a for in loop. I'm not going to go into that, but it's pretty much saying for each user in users array, pass the user, which is still going to be some JSON, into a user object, and then append it to the users array that we already have specified. So that's pretty much all it's doing. Anyway, so that's all we need to do. So now we're all set to use the user's response as part of our request. So instead of user, we want to do users response. And I know this might seem like kind of weird the way that I'm going through it, but this is the way that you would generally go through making these Tron requests, and it's kind of easier to understand it after everything's said and done. But you know, we just kind of have to work through it. So next thing that we have to do is do the request dot perform, and we're gonna perform this one. You could do just this one, but you know, there's no completion handler, so you wouldn't be able to do really anything with it. This one you would mainly do if you were like not gonna use the response, but we want to see the response. We want to add it to our table view, so we're going to use this one, which is going to give us the ability to use the completion handler for use the callback with success. You know, if it's successful or if it's failure, then it's going to have an error. It's going to pass us our my error as the model. And here we go. So go ahead and press enter with that. It will do, oh, that didn't work right. Okay, there we go. So we're going to press enter, and then it gives us the response. So this is going to pass in, this is going to be the object that we have, users response. So we'll just say users response. This is going to be the object that we specified up here, right? And then the same thing is going to be for error, but I'll go into that right now. And we're going to say, let's just say print users response dot users, and that did the actual struct, and we should be able to get our users array. It should print out a bunch of the users, which may not be readable because it's going to just be, you know, our models that is going to be printing out a list of our models, but we'll get into that in a bit. We go down, press enter right here so it does the autocomplete for us. We're just going to specify that it's an error, and we're going to print the error. So obviously only one of these will be called, and it should be this one because everything else looks like it should be working. Let me just double check, make sure that I'm where I need to be. Yep, that's all we really need to do. So lastly, what I want to do is I want to go into my user's response. This is not necessary, but I just want to make sure that I can see the JSON that I'm getting back, so that you can see the JSON that's coming. JSON from user's response, right? And then we'll just pass that in there so that we can see it. All right, so let's just make sure that we don't have to open up a completely different simulator. I already have the iPhone 7 open, and now we just have to have this go through, build, run on this device. We can test out our get, and we should be good for getting this response and also showing our view controller the list of the actual users. So we'll get, let's see, which order will it go in? It will do the actual JSON response, and then we'll just get a list of our user objects. Yeah. Yep. All right, let's do this. Click. Alrighty, let's see. Did that work? Looked like it worked. Yeah, see? So like I said, not really sure what that error, oh, because we had print request. So it's printing that request. JSON from the user's response. This is where it initializes the user's response, right? The model that we made. And this is all the JSON that it's being passed. Remember, we converted that into an array of dictionaries. From there, we created a bunch of users. And in here, we can actually see each of our user objects specified with name and company name. So it looks like we're good. So the only thing that we want to do from right here is we want to actually have somewhere to store it so that we could put it in all our table view. So let's just say var users is an array of user. And you know what? Let's just, so that we can use this right off the bat, let's just do, let's set it to an empty array of users, right? And let's set up our table view so that we can start adding in some of this data. You know, I'm thinking, what would you be thinking at this point? Where would some confusion start setting in? And I'm not really sure. I think so far it seems pretty straightforward. You might want to know what happens if we do user, which is an invalid endpoint, which I could show that to you guys right now. Let me just get this table view going. UI table view data source, right? And then we need to do number of sections, return 1, number of rows, return users dot count. cell for row. Let cell equal UI table view cell. Oh no, hold on. I wanted to specify which kind of cell I wanted. So with the style of subtitle, so that I can show this the company name right below the user's name. And then we're not gonna use a reuse identifier for this one. All this stuff is not required by Tron. I hope you know that. This is part of why it's an intermediate level. I don't want to go into explaining everything that I'm doing right here necessarily. Text label dot text, and then this is going to be equal to users index path dot row, and then this is going to be the name cell dot detail, what is it called, details text label, yeah, dot text equal to users index path dot row dot company name, and then return cell. There we go. All right. Oh, this is optional. That's all. Okay, so this looks good to me. The other thing, okay, so when I do the GET request, since I changed it to user, which is an invalid endpoint, you'll see what happens with the error. And let me go over here. Oh, we already have stuff printed, so we can see exactly what's being printed out. So we're gonna get an error when we do this GET request that has nothing to do with the table view. Hope that wasn't confusing. But I just wanted to show you, I'm trying to think of what questions you might have at this time, trying to be thorough. And that's the only other question that I came up with in my head is, oh, well, what if it's an error? What happens? So now we're going to get an error. Let's see what happens. So remember, it's printing our request, right? This is up here in our view controller, right? So we have print request right here. That's what that is. The JSON that is printing right there is going to be in our object. It initializes our object, our my error object, and this is that right here, JSON, and it prints out the JSON that it receives. So as you can see, it's blank JSON, and then I also have my print statement that says JSON parsing error. Right here, this is the API error, and this is being printed out from right here. This is the error. It was it initialized our error, which gave us those other two errors, and then it prints out the error, the API error, and it gives us back, the actual error. So you get the status code, you get like all the headers, everything that went wrong, and from here you're kind of able to debug. What you can do, what the nice thing is what you can do is you could do error dot status, or wait, you do error dot response. Was it response? I have to see what were the options again. So you can show the error model, which this will already be your the error that you made. In my case, it will be my error, which I specified right here. You can do the request, which is what was actually sent to the server, and the response, which is this part down here. You can also see the data and localized description. If we do response, we could do response dot status code if you want to just get the status code, things like that. And then also we can do like something like this, like guard let equal error dot error model, which will be our response. And if you want to just make sure of that, it'll be as my error, and then else return, And then if you were to like beef up your error model, you could put in different values in here, let you know, like for example, you could do let is empty, be of type bool, right? And now what we can do is we'll do r is empty is equal to JSON dot is empty, and then we'll be able to access that, right? We'll be able to access that back in our view controller because now it's part of our error model as the my error. And we'll do error dot, or we'll do print error dot is empty. So now, since we're sure that it is an my error object, we can access the properties from it. So let's just do it one more time just so I can show you that you can do this stuff. But most of the stuff, like I said, status error. Oh, okay. I'm trying to do it twice. It should be... It's doing it as this. We're just making sure that it is this. I'm just going to accept. I'm just going to force unwrap it. That should get rid of it. Let's see. Does it know already? So... maybe this was a bad example, but whatever. So maybe it won't work at this point. Let's see. Oh yeah, so if you just check it, it will automatically know that you're trying to access the error model that you specified up here, and it will allow you to continue. So you don't have to do a cast. You don't have to cast it as the model again. It already knows. Okay, so we're gonna do get again, and then we get our error, and as you can see, that's still printing from the initialized error model. Once again, that this statement is from that error model, and then the optional 404 is the error response status code right here, and then we're printing out is it empty, and that's true. So that's what you can do with it, but most of the stuff that you really need, it's automatically going to be in the error. All right, so that's enough of that. Sorry, I went onto like a little tangent for that stuff. I was just trying to think, what would you guys ask, and I think that might be something that you would ask. Now what we're going to do is we're just gonna set this to this. So self.users is equal to users response dot users, and then from here we want to do self dot table view dot reload data, right? And we should be set, and we'll just to get rid of this and not delete anything so that you guys can still see it. Status code missing. All right, so we're not going to get error this time because we're hitting the right endpoint. We're going to still print out our response, but this time we're setting the user's response users to our view controllers users, and then updating the table view. At that point, it will change the count. It will update the text label and the details label, and each of the cells will show the correct user and their company name. So let's go ahead and do that. Oh, didn't work because I didn't attach the data source. My bad. Make sure you do that. you learn something new every day, and you refine your technique every time you do these things. So my bad. All right, that'll work. So just go back to view controller so we're not taking up so much processing power. As you can see, my computer is extremely slow when OBS is running. And then for posting, it's almost the same exact thing. Only thing that we really have to do is just change the method type, specify what parameters, but we'll get to that right now. But yeah, so we're gonna do get, and as you can see, bam, look at that. So one other thing you might be wondering, well, we didn't do dispatcher return to main queue or anything like that, and that's because Tron automatically sets you back onto the main thread once it gets these callbacks. So if you're not sure if this is the main thread, what you can do is you can do print thread dot is main thread. Yeah, you could do that. You could print out and check if it's the main thread, and what I'll do is I'll just take out this, delete some of these so that we're not getting a crowded. So it'll return after the JSON. We should get true after the JSON down here. Yeah, so it returns it to the main thread, so you don't have to worry about updating your UI from a background thread, which is a nice thing, a nice little touch. I'm not sure if Alamofire does that for you automatically, but for sure Tron does. I'd have to look into Alamofire. Again, I have to double check. But just so you know, it is thread safe. So get, and as you can see, it says true as I stated before. All right, so now we know how to do a GET request with Tron. We're already past the hard part. That was the hard part pretty much. We just got to do the same thing. So we're going to do let request, and then we're also, well, remember Tron makes you specify the models before you do anything. So I'm going to let my error model be used for this one, but I do have to create a different post model. And since the response will be just showing me what I sent to it, we're not going to be looking at like an array of posts. I don't have to do a post's response like I did the user's response. I could just do the post. So that's not how most APIs work, but that's how this API works. So just keep that in mind. And in order to get this going, I do have to create another model for it. So we'll just do post. Oh, what I can show you is, before I do this, what I can show you is that that user wouldn't work right here. It wouldn't work right. So yeah, this wouldn't, yeah, we'll see. It already wouldn't work right, but let me go ahead and print this out and show you guys what I mean. Print user's response. I believe it won't throw an error, but it will cause it just won't work as expected because it's not able to handle an array. That's why. So let's see. I didn't test this either, so let's see what happens. I'm pretty sure it won't work. When I was going through, it didn't work. So yeah, see, user, it made one user, and then the name is blank and the company's blank. So that's obviously not right, but yeah. Hope that's kind of clear for you guys. If I'm not able to explain something, go through the process, kind of have to do it yourself. Not trying to be rude, but that's honestly the best way of learning. I didn't use Tron before I did this video, but I spent several hours working with it, and this is what I learned, passing that knowledge on to you. Okay, so remember, it has to be JSON decodable, And we have to import Tron and SwiftyJSON import Tron import SwiftyJSON. And then in order to conform to it, we have to do that. We don't want it to throw. All right, so we're gonna print out the JSON, right? And then what are we going to send to it? When we do a post, we want to send, let's say we want to send the person that's going to post it, so a username, right, of type string, and a message type string, right, something like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to just go ahead and parse this stuff and set the username to JSON, and it will be username dot string value and message is equal to JSON, and we'll be passing it as message, and that will also have a string value. And now we have our object, our model, right? So now when we want to do our post request, we can actually create it, or when we want to create our request, we can actually specify it properly. So we have to specify API request, and then we have to pass in 2 JSON decodable models. So we're going to do our post, and we're going to do my error, and that's going to be equal to Tron dot, once again we're going to do a request. This time the path, if you don't remember, it's posts plural. Let's double check that. Double check for safety. Yeah, posts. So if we want to do a post request, we use posts. And for post request, all we have to do is we have to specify what kind of method we want. So request dot method. And this isn't like a normal URL request. So this actually accepts enums values instead of a string. So you have to do dot post. Or actually, let me show you all the different methods that you can do with Tron. You do connect, get, delete, all these little things. So there's quite a few. If you want to know some of these more advanced things, obviously look in the documentation. But we just want to do post. Alright, so request, we also have to specify the parameters, which obviously takes string and any, and that's going to just be this and this. Okay, so we want username, right? Username, and that's going to be @kiloloco, and then we said, what was it, message, right? Be sure to like this video and subscribe. Hey, I'm the one doing the video. I can put in whatever I want right there. All right, so after that, we just do the same thing. We just do the same type of perform request, so or request.perform, and then remember success and failure. And this is going to be a post object that we specified, right? And then we want to do print. I want to do post.username, print post.message, and then for failure it's just going to be error, And remember, this is but we're not gonna do any errors, but go ahead and print error, whatever. Alright, so when I do the post button, nothing will happen in the table view, obviously. We're just looking at the response from here. And like I said, if we do a successful post, then the API will only return what we sent to it, and that's all it will do. Since it's returning that as the response, we're able to create a post object off of that, and we're able to initialize it right there, and then use the properties which we set to message our username and message. So when I hit post, we should get @KiloLoco, and we should get the message that I specified here. Be sure to like this video and subscribe. So let's go ahead and double check that, make sure that works. And after that, if this works, then I think we're done. You guys made it. You made it through the long video. But as you already know, if you've watched my videos, they're all very long. I always go deep. Well, not deep, because this is really just the basics of Tron, but try to specify. It takes a little bit longer. And then my computer's slow, so that doesn't help. So go ahead and tap post. As I said, this is what was sent. I believe JSON placeholder automatically gives you a ID number, which is always going to be like 101, because they already have 100 posts that are set that you can't really do anything to. And then when you do a post, it's going to be 101, but we get the username and we get the message. And then as you can see, this is the username printed out right there, and my message printed out right there. So that's pretty much it, guys. That's get and post requests with Tron. My personal opinions on it, it's kind of neat to be able to do a request in, just like 10 lines or so. But I don't see the benefit to using this over Alamofire personally. Also, the other thing that I wanted to point out is that they recently did an update, and you are supposed to be able to do multi-part form requests, which would allow you to post things like images and stuff like that. And as you can see in their documentation right here on GitHub, it shows multi-part form data, and they have a multi-part API request object or model, and that is no longer available. And that's one thing that really sucks. And I can show you that they actually deprecated that model altogether if I can find a URL. So all the way down here, you'll see that it's no longer available, and that they said use upload API request. I went ahead, I tried to do upload API request. I followed documentation as specified. I could not upload with multi-part form data. It just did not work. So it's interesting to use, but I couldn't see myself using this. Definitely not in a production app. Like if something that somebody was paying me for, I would have to default to Alamofire. If I wanted to play with something more like on my own, and I just wanted to test out something with Tron, then I'd maybe use Tron, but personally probably not. It looks pretty clean to me. This view controller is pretty small, 68 lines of code. It does kind of force you into some good habits, which make you, create your models before you do anything. That's kind of a good thing to do, but when you're trying to test little things, or like trying to get something up and running and just test it, makes it a little bit inconvenient. But yeah, but this is how you do get and post requests on Tron, guys. Yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop these tasks. I hope that I covered everything that you need to know sanally. And I'm gonna go over to my GitHub, and I gotta put these things up for you guys so that you can always reference the project. remember that if you do download my project and you try to use it, may not work because you do have to do the pod install. So make sure you do the pod install before you try to use the project, or it may not work. So we're going to do networking, Tron, and code from my networking, or let's do Tron get and post requests tutorial. Yeah, read me, sure, why not? Alrighty, so we're gonna go ahead and we're already in the right directory, so we're gonna do get init, get remote add origin, and we're gonna just pass in this little link right here. Get pull origin master. Gotta enter your password. Get add all, get commit -am finished tutorial, get push origin master, enter in the password. And let's see, all done. It's up there. So Kilo Loco, networking Tron, if you want to see the code. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. It always makes me feel really good on the inside when I see that little subscriber count go up. It's really small right now, but right now it's like in the mid-60s, which is a lot of people to me. And the more people that I reach out to makes me feel like I'm helping more people. So it just makes me feel good. All right, guys. As you saw at the beginning of this video, I got this request from one of my subscribers. So if you have any questions, or if you want me to make a video on something, feel free to reach out to me. I'm going to be putting up a schedule soon on kiloloco.com. Hopefully, if I could get that working. I'm not a great website developer, so it's all through WordPress, and my ability to do stuff in a great way is kind of limited. But yeah. All right. Once again, my name is Kyle Lee, aka Kilo Loco from kiloloco.com, and as always, code passionately.